Hi, fighters. Thank you for tuning in this evening. We have a phenomenal guest that's going to give you some amazing information. So let's get started. Femi holds a degree in English literature from the University of Texas at Austin. Her career experience includes working both abroad in Santiago, Chile, and in the United States across the public private sectors in various settings such as office, remote, and hybrid environments. With a diverse professional background that spans the field of EFL, home healthcare, academia, business coaching, and e commerce. She has developed expertise in leadership, marketing, communications, and customer experience, successfully building departments and managing large teams. Feme is also an accomplished public speaker, have won awards in Toastmasters competitions, and delivered a TEDx talk at her alma mater on compassionate leadership. Residing in the DFW Metroplex, she enjoys traveling, powerlifting, spending time with her cat, Thor, while remaining dedicated to fostering community and making positive impact through her work. Feme is service oriented and a great entrepreneur, which we'll probably have her speak on. So we would like to say definitely welcome Femi Olasupo.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So let's get into it. Before we go into depth about your career and the things that you do and authenticity and action, briefly tell us about Truvani and your work there.
Yeah, so I have worked with some of the owners of Truvani for almost 10 years. I first started off with them in their previous business, which was a coaching business for female entrepreneurs. And then they brought me over when they started Truvani, and Truvani is a wellness brand. Our hero products are our protein powders, and we have something called the Only Bar. And Truvani, one of the other founders of Truvani is the food babe, Vani Hari. She is a food activist. She champions real whole foods being used in our products, which in the United States, unfortunately, that is not always the case. There's a lot of additives and chemicals that don't need to be there. So Truvani is a company that not only stands for having clean, whole ingredients, but we really go through a great deal of just product development and integrity in our products. So if you look at our products and you read the label versus reading other protein powders, collagens, or bars out there in the market, you will be able to pronounce everything in our bars, and you will see that they are very limited ingredients. Our protein powders, just to give you an idea, go from 3 ingredients to 12 ingredients, again, all pronounceable. If you go to other bars or protein powders and you look on the back on their ingredients, there will be things that you're like, is that a word? Like, what is that? And so, yeah, Truvani is just one of those companies that is leading the charge in trying to create healthy products on the marketplace. And you can find us online, of course, at Truvani.com, but we're also on Amazon. We're in Whole Foods. We just got into Walmart. We're in Sprouts, a lot of natural grocers, and it's just a brand that's doing really, really well. So I'm proud to be a part of that.
Absolutely. And I can agree. I definitely have seen those products in both Sprouts as well as, you know, I think it was Whole Foods. Yes, I've seen it there as well.
Yep.
So when I saw that in your bio, I said, oh my gosh, yes, I love that. So definitely some great products. And you guys definitely should try them out.
Yes.
Yes. So now, is there anything else that you want to share, like any other endeavors that you're involved in before we go forward?
Yeah, it's always funny when I meet new people or I'm with my friends. I kind of always downplay the things that I do, but in
Let's not
reality,
do that. Let's not do that.
yeah, I am a very multi-passionate person. I believe in going after whatever you feel called to. I believe there's a reason that that desire or dream has been placed in your heart. I am definitely a go-getter. So in addition to working with Truvani for the last 7 years or so, I've also been acting director of marketing for a consulting brand for auto repair shop owners. that takes a lot of my time as well, but it's really great to hone those skills in a completely different market, completely different demographic, different company size, all kinds of things are different. So I just love to keep I say I sharpen my skill knives by just staying really active and never saying I can't do something, but instead saying, how could I get that done? And then throughout my journey of just figuring out how to get those things done, I've just had a lot of really great experiences. You mentioned in my awesome introduction that I did a TEDx talk, which I'm really proud of too, because you try and do something new and you're like, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to do this? Do I have enough value to give? And then you go for it and you find out just how much value you have to give. I love to travel and I love to share with my friends a lot of my travel videos, and that has been great because they really love seeing that, so much so that I now am hosting group travel experiences. I've got two lined up for Scotland next year. And yeah, I also like the last trip that I went to on Scotland, I had a just a very normal, benign conversation about these things called midges. They're like tiny little mosquitoes that like kind of go in swarms. And my tour guide was like, if there was some wind, then maybe we wouldn't have as many midges. And I do not know why, the heavens like planted in my soul to write a children's story about that. So I just published my first children's book called The Wee Midge and the Wind, about a little midge whose dream is to make it to the other side of the glen, and the wind is his obstacle. And he meets several different Highland creatures that give him advice and help him achieve his dream. And that has been really fulfilling and awesome. And it's been incredible seeing a bunch of my friends and family buy this book and then send me pictures of them reading it with their kids. And then that just was such an enjoyable experience that I have two more children's books in the making. One is called Susie Speak Up, which I recently finished, and it's now being illustrated. And that is about, well, she's a squirrel, but she is a woman in a male-dominated world. Who can relate to that? And just about the challenges of being a woman, sometimes doing the same exact work or more than her male counterparts, but then not getting the recognition or the pay. And so I found a very new passion of writing these children's books that are, yes, for children, but kind of also for adults. And yeah, that's just been what's been going on lately for me.
Listen, I love that. So that means that we have to get you back on hindsight at a different time to have a conversation about these wonderful writes that you've done. So, yeah,
I
like
would love
you
that.
said, the titles itself, it sounds like it's for children, but definitely there's some nuggets in there for adults, and I'm so loving it.
Yes, absolutely. I would love to. I'm so excited and I'm enjoying the process of Susie Speak Up so much. But it'll be done in about 3 months, so I'm happy to talk then.
Absolutely. Well, let's go. So let's move forward and talk about authenticity in action,
Mhm.
leadership dynamics, and fostering trust and drive successful performance. Speak to that topic a little bit.
Yeah, so pretty early on, when I started working in the online marketing, online business sphere, I had a little bit of experience managing people. And then suddenly, a couple years after I started, I had a lot of experience managing people, but I didn't have a lot of maybe mentorship or I didn't have a traditional, I suppose, trajectory into a leadership position. I was just very good at what I did, my role, and then that led to a leadership role. But those are two very different skill sets, managing people versus doing the work that you need to do. And so I also went from managing one or two like VAs in the Philippines to managing a team of 21 direct reports, and then at the same time building a call center. So having another, 10 or so representatives that I needed to hire, train, and, get them ready to work in that while managing the 20 people I had. And so I always am striving to be better. And through that experience, I've just learned so much of what it takes to drive performance. And the the number one thing that I've seen is like if you can make people feel seen, heard, and valued and uh just important, even if they're in a entry level position, the return on that investment in them is that they will naturally show up and want to do more. And I feel like people talk about that all the time, but they don't really talk about what does that look like? And it's not only what you do, it's who you are and how you show up, which is the real part that's missing. And so a lot of that is personal development and not just personal development with like, three ways a manager should talk to their team or how to do conflict resolution. Like it's a lot. And I think that it's a lot deeper than that. So I've invested so much time and energy over the years investing in myself and just being very aware of what's going on inside of me, how my emotions are at play, and being able to see clearly, and then being a safe space for myself. And then that naturally makes me a safer space for the people that I manage. For example, just recognizing that people have bad days and their output is not going to be the same each and every day. And so being able to be flexible and meet them where they are each and every day, or even for long stretches of time, and realizing that people have the whole context outside of the workplace that you know little to nothing about, and that can really affect how those people show up in the workplace. And you can get a little bit curious versus being instantly judgmental. When you see someone slacking or seeming like they're slacking or seeming like they're checked out, instead of just saying they're lazy or that's always who they are, show a little bit of, compassion and curiosity about what could possibly be going on in their lives. And you don't even have to pry, but even just showing that you are open to them as a human being, because they are human beings. They're not like robots doing this work. They might be willing to share with you what they're going through. And some of that stuff can be really, really hard. So I've had the honor of having a huge team to manage, and I have witnessed people go through multiple miscarriages, for example, having a spouse be in the hospital and have a brain aneurysm, having people having mental health situations and all that kind of stuff. And the last thing that someone needs when they're going through what could likely be a extremely challenging time or maybe one of the hardest times in their life, when they're sitting by their spouse in the hospital, the last thing that they need is to feel additional worry and stress about, oh my gosh, am I going to lose my job because I have to tend to my life? And so it can just be as simple as acknowledging that and telling them, look, please do not worry about anything. As your leader, I am going to cover for you here, make sure that you have the flexibility that you need. We can get on a different kind of work schedule to make sure that you have the time and space that you need to heal, grieve, do whatever you need to do to tend to your life without having the fear that you're going to lose your job. Something as simple as that. And I never thought anything about that. I thought everybody's just doing that, right?
Oh,
But
no.
through talking to these people, like I say in my TEDx talk, this is a true story. One of my team members had a spouse it was her fiance, go through a brain aneurysm. And she's telling me, oh, because it's a remote team, I'm gonna bring my laptop to the hospital. And I was like, please don't.
Right.
Um, please don't. You do not have to worry about this. You can just be present with your loved one, and we're going to figure something out. And she broke down and cried and said how thankful she was for that, because her fiance had already been in the hospital almost a week, I think, and had not received a response to her request to be out of her office. Like her fiance's leaders had not even acknowledged the
Wow.
need to be out yet. So that's what taught me like, oh, what I'm doing might be a little bit different and very needed. And I think that's one of the reasons why I haven't had any turnover, I think in 3, possibly more years.
Love that.
Hmm.
I love that. And so, like you, I believe in giving staff and students both what I like to call a brain break.
Yes.
This is in, it's definitely important to have that moment where you can check out unapologetically versus,
Yes.
I always say, I know some people think it's crazy, but I always like to say a job is just over broke. We're all disposable at some point,
Right.
whether we want to believe it or not. If we were to croak over tomorrow, just like you spoke about your, employer's previous her job, they didn't even acknowledge
Yeah.
or respond. So that means that we're disposable, right? So we have to
Yeah.
be mindful about our self-care and be unapologetic about taking time and finding that balance. So I love the fact that you're compassionate and you're a caring individual first, and then boss, and as an added value to that. That speaks so many volumes to the reason why you don't have that turnover.
Yes, absolutely. It
Yeah,
is an unfortunate truth that we are disposable, but I do believe that part of a great leader's responsibility is that while you are in my charge, I hope that you leave my charge whenever that is better than you arrived.
that's right.
Yeah.
Wow. So what motivates you specifically to be so authentic in your work?
I think I'm just motivated to be authentic, period. Like, and it spills over into work. And I've just seen how inauthentic some leaders can be. And so it's like discovering you have a superpower that you didn't realize was a superpower. But I mean, effective leadership is meeting people where they are and rallying them so that they can go further and that you all together can collaborate to meet the needs and goals of your project, your business, whatever it is. And I think people could do their best work when they are very self-aware and they are connected to who they are. There's a great quote that I like. I'm probably going to just paraphrase it, but it's from Rob Bell, and he says something to the effect of whatever you're showing up to do, the totality of who you are, like it's communicated through the totality of who you are. So if you have all of these like things inside you that you're unaware of, that you haven't really looked at to process, to heal, to educate even, it's your project, your effectiveness as a leader, whatever you're trying to do is going to get filtered through that. So if you are not even an effective, if you don't have a compassionate, connected, healthy relationship with yourself, then all of that's going to come through whatever it is that you intend to do. So my mindset is I want to be the most connected, honest, healthy person to myself and constantly be growing that. And that is what energy I'm bringing to any of my projects, whether it's writing a children's book or leading a team of people or, hiking a mountain or whatever. It's just about that healthy relationship with yourself. Like you cannot give to other people what you don't possess yourself. And so I find it at my job as a leader and as a human is just to continuously develop and deepen the relationship that I have with myself so that that spills over into everything else.
Absolutely. And being that you're so multi-passionate and you have your body just dipped in so many different things, can you give an example, if there are any at all, a time when you had to stand up for your own values?
Yeah. I would say it happens actually more than someone might think. And it's not it, at least in my experience, it hasn't really been like a huge, dramatic show or anything, but there's plenty of spaces, for example, that I am the only woman and the only person of color. And there's a whole lot of things that come with that. And
Sure.
so well, one of my values is inclusivity. Some of my values is that if someone's doing the work and getting the results, like it should not matter if they like their gender or their color of their skin. And so part of me, um, part of my drive is to keep excelling so that I can keep being in those rooms and showing people exactly that my value is whoever does good work is, the right person for the job. There shouldn't be this, um, you know, people just sort of getting a free pass sometimes just because. And then also, I want to be in those rooms and keep being in those rooms and getting more power in the workplace, or career capital, as some people might call it, so that I can turn around and give other people chances. There was a time I worked in a company where I was in the entire company the only person of color, and I got some hiring power, and then I was able to kind of be a silent change maker. And about 1/3 of the company, a couple years after that, was more diverse than it was before, and not just in entry level positions. These people, I poured into them and they did a great job as well, and then rose up to be managers and have leadership positions as well. And so, the people with those values have to sort of be trailblazers and go ahead and, put a stake in the ground for those values, and then turn around and give opportunities to other people that might share those values as well.
And I love that. So that too speaks to another whole podcast and conversation about DEI and B, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging.
Mhm.
Another whole total conversation. So I love the fact that you are able to utilize those acronyms and bring them to fruition so that those people can sort of greatness in their own skin. So
Yes,
kudos for
absolutely.
that. Absolutely. So how does one ensure that their actions align with their words? That goes back to being authentic. But the listeners that are on here, because believe it or not, there's so many people that don't understand what their passion is or how to find what they're supposed to do, what,
Mhm.
to align their life in general, but and also using their words. What advice to that, or how do they ensure that they align?
In my opinion, it's about not pretending to be something that you are not. And this might be like a controversial thing to say because I
That's
know
okay. We like controversy. It's a healthy controversy.
yeah, it's just so popular for people to be like, fake it till you make it. And I'm like,
No,
but why? It's okay to be a beginner. And actually, there's so much courage in being a beginner and, quote unquote, failing out loud. I don't really think you can fail. You can just learn something. So, um, and even if you want to keep excelling, like, again, you mentioned me being multi-passionate. I'm multi-passionate because, I mean, I naturally am, but also a big part of that is having the courage to be bad at this thing and that thing and this thing, because I know I'm only going to be bad at it for a little bit. And after I go through that process and do the worst work that I can do, meaning the best that I can do in this moment, but it's the worst I can do if I keep going. So, for example, I did actually go through the process recently of writing a non-children's book, like a nonfiction book. And oh my gosh, I was racked with self-doubt. I was racked with like, why is this in my heart to do? Why did I even think I could do this? This is one of the hardest things I've ever done. And then I got through it, and uh, it's not out and the process is not done, but I keep thinking to myself, wow, that's the worst book I've ever written. Because if I write another book, I'm not starting from scratch. I have all of that experience under my belt, and I will, of course, do better because I had that experience. But I can't make better books if I'm not willing to be bad to start with. So if someone doesn't know what they want to do, I think part of that is a little bit of fear. So I think if any one of us were to just sort of be quiet for a little bit and sort of just, center ourselves and breathe deeply and maybe ask ourselves some questions, the thing that you want is naturally there. It just might be covered up by, a lot of mental noise. And then if you can even say one thing, whether it's hiking a mountain or calling a friend to go out or going to the movies by yourself, whatever it is, take small steps and just try it and do it. And don't try not to be so afraid to look foolish or, not do it well. Or even feel those feelings and still do it anyway. Because I think also people think that you're either not an expert or you're like the highest, level of expert. But expertise is a ladder.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, for example, have I ever written a bestseller book? No. Will I ever? Who knows? But you have to start somewhere. So I'm on the first rung of the ladder, which means the people who have never dared to write a book, I technically am an expert to them because I dared to write a bad book even. And so if I write another one and another one or have more experiences and keep writing, I'm going to keep climbing that ladder. And if I write 5 books, I am an expert to someone who's written 1 book. And, it doesn't matter if you look at it like that, if you are a bestseller. Like, I don't have to be a bestseller to add value to people. If 3 people read my book and one person is like, wow, the information you shared really moved my soul and I really got a lot of value out of it, that's
Absolutely.
worth it.
Yeah.
Is it not?
Absolutely. That's like in the education world, we like to say, reach one, teach one, right? Or teach one, reach one. That's what it's about. If you touch one, you're probably led to teach, reach and teach so many other individuals, and you just never know. And you need that
Exactly.
one. You need that one. And once you have that one, you'll be fine.
Exactly. And I bet if any one of us thought of someone in our lives that have touched us or helped us, mentored us, taught us something, even just given us a nice compliment, not all of them are going to be like Oprah or,
Right.
whoever. Like, it's going to be someone that just was being themselves and had a heart to help. Um, and that can plant a little seed inside you and it can do wonders. You never know what it's going to do. I still remember one of the reasons I have a Maya Angelou poem, Phenomenal Woman, in my home
Mm.
always is because when I was in 12th grade, I started realizing that I really like to write. And the teacher, my English teacher back then, she was the only person in my life willing to read my essays for college, my essays for fun. And she saw something in me and even asked me to start mentoring other people. So again, that's a little tiny ladder. But one day, I stayed after school to get her feedback on something I had written, and she asked me if I knew the Maya Angelou poem "Phenomenal Woman." And unfortunately, at the time, I did not know the poem, but she said, "You are a phenomenal woman." And just that, like her being authentic in giving me that compliment, planted a seed in my heart. And I always would read that poem and just be like, I think a part of me just was like, am I that phenomenal woman? What does that even mean? How can I continue to strive to sort of be worthy of that compliment almost?
Yeah.
But that was I mean, looking back, that's kind of a life-changing moment because she was really the only person I knew who saw me and, spoke value and like your good enoughness into me. And so I think people just they greatly overestimate like the voices of like the famous people and the super successful or wealthy people, and they gravely underestimate the value of, the person next door, the person in your community, a teacher, a coworker, themselves. And we add a lot of value, a lot more than we think.
Absolutely. And you know how people, you said it earlier, people say, hey, fake it till you make it. But communication is key and so
Yeah.
many things, and people miss that mark a lot. So, what strategies should those taking a listen use to stay genuine in their communication?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think that communication it's back to that other quote about the all that's within you, like everything that you do gets filtered through the totality of who you are. So
Mhm.
if you're faking it, you're going to be filled with doubts and insecurities. I would think that's how it feels for me. So all of that stuff is going to come out when I'm communicating. So I might say things that aren't really true, that I don't really believe in, that I think I need to say to sound a certain way or to give the impression that I'm this or that. And there's just going to be something that is off. Like, another Maya Angelou quote, like, people will forget what you do and what you say, but they won't ever forget how you made them
Made them
feel.
feel.
And
I know. Whew, that's good.
yeah.
Yep.
It's about being honest with yourself again. Like you can't give to other people what you don't possess. So if you're not being honest with yourself, if you're not being secure with yourself, if you're not connected to yourself, you can't give that to other people. If you beat yourself up all the time, and you're, kind of a bad friend to yourself, it's going to be really hard to reach someone at the level needed to help them feel safe, help them feel supported. It's not impossible, but it's far more natural and far more um, impactful
Hmm.
when it's coming from truth within you. So that's how I think about it. I try my best to grow in self-awareness. I try my best to connect to all my emotions, meaning I'm not going to um, I'm not going to put myself down because I'm feeling insecure or angry or any of the quote unquote negative emotions. Instead, I'm going to turn towards them and communicate with them and be like, why are you here? Because a lot of the times anger shows up because your boundaries have been violated, or, sadness comes up because either there's some sense of loss, or maybe you didn't go for something that you actually really wanted to. So there's like a lot of wisdom in our emotions and in our inner life that we can connect to. And then just seeing yourself clearly. No one's all good or all bad, or rarely are. There's two sides of every coin, and I think people tend to look at situations and it's easier for them to see the negatives or what's not going right. But I try and tell people always do both sides of the column. So if you're willing to say, hey, I want to write this book or I want to teach this course or something, and you're like, here's all the things that my brain is ruminating on that could go wrong. Great, awesome, acknowledge it. And now make sure you spend the same amount of time or more acknowledging all the possibilities that could go right. And I feel like that's what it is. It's acknowledging that as a human, you're going to have insecurities, but you also have strengths at the same time. You're going to be a beginner, and you're also going to be an expert to somebody who's even more of a beginner than you. And it's not this black or white sort of thing. And so I think the more genuine of a relationship that you can have with yourself, the more that sincerity comes out in all of the ways that you communicate with other people.
I love that. Now, speaking of that and being effective in all the things you talked about, let's pivot to the effectiveness of leaders and secret weapons to inspire trust, motivate teams, and drive exceptional performances, all being a mastery of connections and care
Mhm.
and emotions and things of that sort. But before you talk to that, what are your secret weapons?
Yeah, I mean, kind of all that I just said is my
Right.
secret weapon. I mean, I know that it sounds weird. I feel like this is something I just recently discovered, but like if I need my people, for example, on my team to trust me, but I'm not a trustworthy person,
Mm,
like the math's not mathing, right? Uh,
right.
if I want them to be open and honest with me, but I'm not very transparent with them and I'm hiding, the truth about the situation of the work from them, or I'm getting angry with them quickly, they're not going to want to come to me and tell me what's really going on and that they need flexibility. They're going to hide and scheme and try and just sort of evade me. Um, you know, it, one of the things that I feel is my superpower with my team is, you know, a lot of them, because we have an all remote team, I haven't even met in person, but we have a very good like team bond. And that's because I do a lot, I pour into them a lot because if I want them to be engaged, a lot of the leadership stuff that I've read about or that people talk about a lot is like getting your people engaged. And that's something that drives performance. But it's like what engages people? First of all, knowing what they care about, having the curiosity to go get to know your people and not give them some stock engagement thing. So I like to do surveys where I'm just asking them, what's your favorite place to eat, or what kind of food do you like, or what do you like to do to relax, all those kinds of things. And it's kind of like a get to know you survey. And then they think nothing's going to happen with that. And then I pour into them by doing sort of ongoing team bonding things. Like for November, we did like 2 weeks of a gratitude challenge where I would make a quote and a post, like a prompt about a gratitude challenge. And so it's called a 1 point prompt. So every time someone answers that, which is engagement, they get a point. And then at the end, there's prizes. So I've done it around that. I've also asked them what kind of things they're interested in. Surprisingly to me, one of the things the whole team was interested in was personal finance. So I
Wow.
created a month-long challenge around personal finance. So we're just learning new things. I'm dropping videos about it, not videos that I do. So I wouldn't call myself an expert in that, but like getting things from YouTube or different experts that I know about and just opening the conversation about that. So, we're a customer service team and customers can be they can talk to you
Challenging,
like you're not a human
right?
sometimes. And it can be, very monotonous work. And so this is a way that we can sort of stimulate our mind, educate ourselves, because I do believe education is growth. And so if you're not growing, you're going to be sort of a stagnant person in general. So we're stimulating growth, and then we're stimulating having a something to look forward to in the day that's not just serving customers. We're kind of pouring into ourselves, investing in ourselves. And afterwards, the prizes were not random gift cards. I went back to this survey that they had taken 2 years ago or something and gave them gift cards to either exact favorite restaurants in the cities that they live in
Mhm.
or around the food that they said that they liked. And they were just blown away because they were like, I didn't know someone could care that much. And I think that's my superpower sometimes um, is showing that I care about you as a person, and I can't expect my team to care about the goals that I need to hit or the work that we need to get done if they feel like nobody cares about them. So I show them in abundance that I care about them as an individual on this team. And in return, they show me that they care by showing up and doing the work or offering to do more. It goes back to that another quote that's like when you show people that you appreciate them, they naturally want to do more for you. And I know that people know that, but it sometimes people forget in the day-to-day grind because we've all got things going on, and it's easy to allow those things to fall off because it doesn't seem like it adds to the bottom line, but it actually really, really does add to the bottom line. Imagine if you had something, to do and a lot of work to do. Maybe it's not the most fun, maybe it's not the most creative or in alignment with what your true passions are, but you got to pay the bills, right? That's the reality of being a human sometimes. And the person that you work with is just pouring into you and making the culture of that place fun and creative, and you're getting all the things that you need, but it's not exactly directly from the work. It's instead directly from the culture and the people that you work for. So yeah, I think that's been the superpower that I've discovered and developed over the years.
Well, I love that because in all of that, what you just shared, you already touched on the emotional mastery the connection and the care of your staff. So, I mean, that already encompasses that's what you've literally talked about this entire time.
Mhm.
Connecting and caring and being authentic and intentional about not just your staff, but also yourself and that transparency to help them want to be transparent with you. And it all boils down to me in that one word of everything I've heard you say is trust.
Yes, absolutely. Trust and care, I would say too. Like just going
Sure.
back to the story about my 12th grade English teacher. She didn't have to care about my essays. She didn't have to care about my aptitude for writing. You know, she didn't have to care to give me a compliment, but like here I am, what, 20 plus years later, and that's still one of the most, if not the most impactful compliment that I've ever received that has stuck with me through all of those years. And that was just one touch point with her. Um, so just think of what any of us can do by showing the people that we interact with every day that I see you, I hear you, I value you, I care for you.
Absolutely. So earlier on, you spoke about being one, possibly the only woman, and sometimes even the only woman of color, and some of the rooms that you're in, right?
Mhm. Yes.
So we know that there are also organizations out there that are for women of color. And one of those is Apway, which we know as the Association for Black Women in Higher Education. Now,
Mhm.
tell us, how did you get connected with Apway, and what is it about the organization that aligns with you personally and professionally?
So I got connected through Dion Lucas, and I met her because she was in my group of people who did TEDx talks.
Mhm.
And she had a fantastic talk about educating people on like mathematics with rhythm, which was so cool. Definitely check out her TEDx talk. But I wanted to get involved because I do enjoy any kind of organization that champions women and especially women of color. You know, it's in my life at least, it's not so uh it's not everywhere you go that that's, you know, what you get. You know, not it's important to me to have relationships and connections with people like me, as well as not like me. I definitely am someone who believes all of us need to experience people unlike ourselves so that we can sort of open our minds and see that the way that we see the world is not always um, the way everyone else sees the world. However, it's also really important to be around people who have a unique understanding of some of the challenges that are unique to you and what you might face. So, being a part of an organization like Appway, it just, I know that the people in this organization understand some of the things I say, like being the only person like yourself in a room. And I don't even have to say more.
Correct.
Um, and I know you understand what I mean.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Good.
And when you, yeah, sorry, go
Okay.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
It's just that it can be tiring sometimes when you're outside of a group, when other people, like when you are in a room and you're the only one like yourself, it can just sometimes be really tiring. Um, like sort of having to question yourself because of the way things are going, or you know, just always kind of second guessing yourself because you're not met with a certain level of understanding. And so these kinds of spaces like Appway are so important so that it's kind of like an exhale, like, oh, okay, I don't have to translate my soul here. Like you understand what I'm saying. And yeah, so that's why I think these kinds of spaces are really important.
Absolutely. Now, before we go, are there any nuggets that you would like to impart on the listeners here, before we meet again? Because I tell you, there's so much that you do. so much awesomeness that you exude. I know that we're going to have you back on Hindsight Media. So anything you would like to impart in reference to, it can be anything, in reference to authenticity or, just leadership, whatever's on your heart to share, any nuggets, we would appreciate that.
I would like to challenge people, I think, um, to pick one dream, or even just a goal, something that they haven't made time to do that they've, think to themselves, oh my gosh, I would really love to do that. Or whenever someone thinks to themselves, that thing over there makes me so mad, somebody should do something about it.
Hmm.
Just recognize that those are little like soul clues to what might be your purpose, or something that you are meant to help out with. And I just want to challenge and encourage anyone who's listening to this who has a dream or a goal that they haven't taken action on, and just think of what is the first small step in that direction that you can take, and take it. Like, don't wait, don't put it off. Just like make the call today, do the research today, even just tell somebody in your circle, I am thinking about doing X, because that can also be a little bit of built-in accountability. Because I think if there's one thing that I could um like if I had a message that I could just like broadcast to the entire world, it's like, this life doesn't last forever.
Hmm.
um, so do it now. We're only here for a finite amount of time. And that, in my opinion, is all we need to know to sort of summon the courage within to live the life that we have dreamt of. It doesn't have to be, you know, um, complicated or crazy or like whatever. It's just like, this is something I want to do. The quicker you can do it, the quicker you get into action doing it, the quicker you get to realize, oh, that wasn't as hard as I thought, or oh my gosh, that was so hard, but look how I changed, look how I transformed, look at all the skills that I got. And then when you become that person that did the thing, you get to turn around and help all these other people who um, had that same dream and didn't have a mentor or anything, and then you get to be that person to them. So
Love
that's
that.
what I would say.
Timmy, in that conversation that you just had, that statement, what
Mhm.
about those out there who are not necessarily nervous? And we talked about earlier about one trying to find their passion, but what if age? They feel like if they're in their late 50s and 60s that they may need to do it quicker. They need to find the quickest way to do things. How do you encourage them or give them some type of advice on that they can still do the things that they want to do and be passionate about it, whether it be in business or whatever it is, and finding their footing, even at an age that maybe I would like to call seasoned versus older.
Well, you know what makes food good? Seasoning. So don't think about age, like being seasoned, quote unquote, as a hindrance. It's actually a massive advantage, because you have so many life experiences that you get to, quote unquote, season in whatever project that you do. So you have already lived and developed a sense of self, experiences. You've probably gone through hardships that a lot of younger people haven't gone through. You have a unique perspective, and I think it's actually such a blessing to see people 50 and over, for example, who are still going at it. In my bio, you mentioned that I do powerlifting, and I do. I just love training in that way. And one of the things that motivates me so much is going on Instagram and finding these 80 and 90-year-olds who are lifting similar weight to me. And I'm just like, holy crap. It just makes me feel like, wow, there's so much more life to be had. So why do I keep thinking, oh, I have to do everything, right away? It's not true. I get to keep reinventing myself. I get to keep doing a whole bunch of things. And then B, I think the world needs healthy elders, people who have had the privilege and honor of making it to a certain age and get to it's like they have a different vantage point that they get to share their wisdom from. And I would love to see more older people doing new things, traveling, starting businesses, writing books, doing all of these things because it proves to the rest of us, there is so much life and there are so many iterations of yourself that you get to gift to the world. And there's so many ways you could be a beautiful expert and like just have your expertise and your experience layered into whatever it is that you decide to do. So I say, go for it.
I love that. I love that. So now earlier you spoke about all the amazing things that you're doing, right? And you
Mhm.
plugged a few things, but I need you to replug those things for those that may be coming at the end of this so they can know how to find you, how to follow you, how to hire you as a speaker, how to purchase your amazing books, even though we know you're going to be joining us back here on Hindsight. And also another thing we want to come have you come back and talk about is the wonderful AI, right? That's
Yeah.
forever changing the world. So there's a few things we want Femi to come back and have a conversation with. But right now, let's go ahead and replug all those amazing things so people definitely can support you and follow you and engage.
Yes. Well, if you would like to check out my TEDx talk on compassionate leadership, you can go to femitedtalk.com. And just to be transparent and in alignment with everything that I just said right now, you can definitely find me in a couple of places. I will not even pretend that these websites are the best websites ever, but that's okay. There's going to be later iterations that get better and better, but femiolasupo.com. And then a project that's just sort of getting off is something that I want to mentor managers and people in professional um, spaces on all of these themes that we talked about today: compassionate leadership, being authentic, eliciting trust or building trust. And that is careamplified.com. And you can see my books on there too. And I should add them to femiolasupo.com. But The Wee Midge and the Wind is what the first children's book is called. And that's actually on Amazon. So if you just search The Wee Midge and the Wind, and then Susie Speaks Up, and another one called Fred Finds Feelings, which will, it's going to be about a moose with a limited emotional vocabulary who finds a magical feelings wheel and then learns how to express himself better. But those are all coming in 2025. And I will be updating my web presence with all of that. But for now, femiolasupo.com and careamplified.com and femitedtalk.com.
I love that. So thank you again, Femi, for your time and your energy here this evening. And we look forward to having you back on Hindsight Media Radio 103.5 FM, where there's always something good to talk about.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a pleasure and a joy, and I would love to be back anytime.
Absolutely. So listen, as you heard it here, we have the amazing Femi Olasupo that was here with us and graced us with her presence and all of her amazing nuggets. So remember to visit all of her websites and so much more to come at femitedtalk.com. And then you have femiolasupo.com and then careamplify.com. So we just want to make sure that no matter what, that you always follow, support, and touch all of the individuals that come on this platform. Visit our website at www.hindsightmediaradio.com. Until we meet again, stay great, be great, because you are great. Good night.